Welcome back to the podcast. Gabe, Yanez, and I, we are joined for our weekly episode. We're not joined by anybody, actually. I'm joined by Gabe for our weekly episode where we talk all things fitness, family, and I'm sure he'll probably want to dive into a little bit of nutrition. As of lately, Gabe, man, we just finished our TH45 kickoff call.
I sent all the topics that I want to talk about before this episode, and there's not like an ounce of nutrition in there. So I don't know where you got that from, but anyway.
Dude, well, Gabe, so we had some questions coming in from our, like, just the people who were on the Zoom call, and Gabe's sitting there just rattling off these nutrition. It was like he was rapid firing, doing a great job. So, but you're right. You did send over questions and none of them have anything to do with nutrition, but your education on it and your ability to refer to it, I thought has been just exponentially better and better and better. As things have gone on. And in particular, the challenge, now that it's started, I think you've provided a lot of value. So that was great earlier today.
Dude, I'm pumped, man. I'm pumped. I think that the level of transformations that we're going to see from people, and I said this on the call, man, like, yes, we want people to take progress pictures. And I think that there's going to be some really incredible, like, physical transformations. But, you know, to a lot of the stuff that MDB spoke about, you spoke about, like, there's more to that in transforming in 6 weeks, like transforming your habits, your mindset around alcohol, your intentionality with planning food. Like, there's just so much good wrapped up in this. So anyway, people can still go on, get on the app. You didn't miss your chance. The content's still there. You still have access to it. Like, go on the app right now. Even if you're jumping, 2 weeks in, like, the content will be there and you will benefit from it. So if anyone feels like they missed their chance, don't feel that way. Jump on. You can even go back and watch the recording of, the live call that we just had that had a bunch of really good content. So yeah, man, fired up. Still riding the high from that because that was like a couple minutes ago.
Dude, it was great. Yeah, I mean, look, I got back from Hawaii. I went to Hawaii for a week. We went to the Big Island. My dad turned 70 last year and we were supposed to go to Hawaii, but some stuff happened and my daughter couldn't go. And so we ended up not being able to go a year ago. And so we replaced the trip with this year for his birthday. And it's a big moment, right? My dad turned 70 and I want to be able to spend time. And so we went out there for a week with him and my mom and it was awesome. But one of the things we were able to do, and this is just a testament to what we believe at Train Hard, is we want everyone listening to this to be able to train hard so they can protect and provide. And we've talked a lot about what it means to protect. We've talked a lot about what it means to provide. And we actually just recorded a podcast that'll be coming out in probably a month after this episode airs with Garrett Gunderson. And dude, stay tuned for that one. We talked nothing but about finances and providing. But when it comes to providing in terms of experiences, my dad, myself, my son, we did a bunch of stuff, but in particular, we went spearfishing. And I think that moments come and go in life, right? And they come and then all of a sudden they go and you don't realize just how special they'll be until later on. And this was one of those moments where we're out there in the water and I was just like, dude, this is badass. This is great. This is what life is doing something active with your family, connecting and being able to provide these experiences. And dude, spearfishing was a gnarly, gnarly experience. For anyone who hasn't done it, so Caden's 11, he's had interest in doing this for years and we've got scuba certified. So he's very comfortable in the water. So is my daughter. But this is our first time spearfishing. And Ashley, my wife, was not keen on him spearfishing. She did not want him to go. So it was one of those things where we had to communicate. Long story short, we ended up getting private instructors for each one of us because of, obviously there's some risk there. But the type of spear we had, Gabe, was this one where you have you have a spear with a 3-prong at the front, and then you use like a rubber band around your arm, and you look like Aquaman, and you let it go. Dude, I'm telling you, this was like the coolest experience. If you guys are out there and your family has an interest in the water, definitely don't do this if you're not comfortable in the water. Do not do this. But if you do, man, Gabe, so we were out there for like 3 hours, right? And I'm talking to the instructor and he had an idea of my background. So he was a jiu-jitsu guy. He was whatever. He's like, Jason, give it 45 minutes and you'll see the magic. It took me about 45 minutes to learn how to control my breath. But bro, I'm telling you, after that, it was like a flow state and you could just be down there because you had a weight belt on. Best experience, and I had to share it here because if you haven't done it, go do it and find an instructor to do it.
And I think that, beyond that, because, for some people, it might be like, well, when am I going to go somewhere where I can go spearfishing next? But I think that the really cool takeaway there is that you're able to do that. Like you have the ability to do that, not only from a financial means, but from like a physical health means, right? Like there would be nothing more tragic than going to Hawaii, hearing Jason tell this awesome story about spearfishing, having the opportunity to go and feeling like you're not in the physical shape to be able to do that. Or even worse, like getting the private instructor, like, hey, I'm going to do this, and feeling so like winded or just completely physically incapable to like enjoy the experience. And that's what, and again, this is like a super specific example, but that's the thing that we want to never happen, right? Like you never want to like have a hike that you have the opportunity to do and not be able to get to the top, or, go on a camping trip and not be able to like carry all the gear. Like these are the things that we train for because, that was a memorable experience for you. I can only imagine what it was for Caden. And he was able to share that with you. But again, because for you, it's not even in question that you have the physical ability to do these things. And I think that to me is the really cool takeaway.
Well, and then my dad too, right? So my dad,
right.
My dad treaded water for 3 hours. Now, granted, we were in the ocean, a little bit easier, of course, but nonetheless, my dad was, dude, after we were done, he fell asleep. I don't think I sent you a picture, but like, dude, he was tired. I mean, bro, he's a 71-year-old man out there for 3 hours. And, but again, this is what this podcast is about. This is why we train hard. We train hard so we can go and do these things. And spearfishing was just such a unique experience. And it taught me so much. I cannot wait to do it again. Like it was probably one of the more fun things I've done. Like if I don't ever go scuba diving again, even after getting my certification, I wouldn't really care. I like whatever, that's fine. But if I want to go spearfishing again, because it took me about an hour and I felt like this instant change in my mind where I was able to lock in and I was really able to get that comfort under the water. Because this dude is nerve wracking. Like you're down and you have to like learn to calm yourself. And so the focus that it required was like, very cool experience. I cannot recommend it enough, but don't go unless you're comfortable swimming.
That's awesome, man. That's fun. Yeah. When this comes out, I'll be in Galapagos, I think, because we're going to be in Quito for a few days and then we're going to Galapagos. Really, really exciting. Ariel's parents are
spearfish in the Galapagos, like, right?
Dude,
I'm sure the one where like like the animals like come and like they practically talk to you. Isn't that the one? Am I right?
Yeah. So there's a lot of I don't know. Anything that I say is like talking out of my butt. My uncle lives there. So, and he works right by the Charles Darwin station. You can do all sorts of stuff out there. It just depends on where you are. And if you're in the national park where like, the endangered protected animals are and stuff, or if you're just out, but it's similar to Hawaii in that it's like a very tropical style island on the Pacific, miles off the coast, like a lot further than you would expect it to be. And it's fun. I've been as like a 1-year-old. I don't remember anything, obviously. So it's going to be fun to go back and go back with Ariel's parents and like really experience that. And obviously going back to Ecuador is always fun. I have so much family out there and it is a beautiful country. It is just such an incredible place, man, because we're going to spend the first 5 days in Quito, which is the capital, and that's in the Andes Mountains. So you're at like 9,000 feet of elevation, mountains everywhere. It's like a little bit cold. It's also really interesting because
you gotta grab me some coffee, dude.
It's right on the equator. I'll get you some coffee. It's right on the equator. So all year round, it's 6 a.m. Sunrise, 6 p.m. sunset. You can go to this really cool museum that they have right on the equator line where literally they do the demonstration of like, the water kind of like going down like a hole, like it looks like a toilet flushing, and they do it on one side of the equator and it goes one way, and then they just move it to the other side of the equator and it goes the other way.
No, dude,
yeah.
That would be such a cool like real life science experiment.
Dude, it's bro, so wild.
Hey, watch this water, dude. It goes to the right and then it goes to the left. Yeah. Gnarly,
dude. It's cool, man. I'm excited. So
I kind of want to go to Ecuador just to experience that.
But the funny story though is, how you said that you were scuba certified and everything. Yeah. So I was talking to my dad because my dad's been more recently than I have, and he went scuba diving when he went there. And I was like, Dad, like, are we gonna scuba dive? And he's like, yeah, of course. And I was like, don't we have to get like certified or something? He's like, don't worry about it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't know how it works in Ecuador, but
it's like, okay.
You might want to go to like a local swim shop and like get your, because you haven't gone scuba diving, right?
No.
Oh yeah. You might want to get some like basic lessons on how to,
No, it's all good, man. My uncle's going to take us down there. This is like how, it's like, dude, you'll be fine. Like, put this on. Like, you'll be fine.
Just don't go past like 40 feet. So if shit hits the fan, you can just swim to the top.
Oh man, it'll be fun. I'm excited to share the experience, but it was funny because that was my first question. It's just, dude, you don't realize until you travel abroad just how different things are. And you get stuck in this mentality of just how things are here. I'll give you a perfect example. Last time we went to Ecuador, we did this hike. It's awesome. It's a volcanic crater that's now a lake. So the hike is actually, you start at the top and you hike all the way to the bottom, and it's this beautiful, beautiful lake. It's huge. And then you have to get back up to the top. And it's a pretty aggressive hike. Like, it wasn't easy going down there, and then you have to get back up. So what they do is the local, like, indigenous population, they run the whole area, and they do mule rides back up. So you can hike down and then they'll carry you back up. And we got down there, and we could have done it from like a fitness perspective, but it was more like it would have taken us a long time to get back. So we were like, all right, we'll just take the mule on the way up. And I remember I got seated and I was going to take Shay with me. And Shay at the time is 8 months old. So I'm holding Shay, and I was fully expecting there to be like, I was joking with Ariel that they were going to make us sign a waiver or whatever, because I knew they weren't. But I was expecting there to be like a little bit of instruction, like hold on here, like do this. Like if anything, like if you start losing your balance, like let me know. Like you're on a legit mule. So it's not as big as a horse. It's like a little smaller, but it's a big animal. And I'm holding an 8-month-old. I'm expecting to get some sort of like warning or like, hold on here. Dude, we got on and the guy like went, and we were off. And like,
and you had you had nothing. It was bareback.
No. I mean, they had a saddle, but they were just like, you're just so used to here. Like everything is like, these are best practices.
Keep your hands in.
Safety. Keep your hands here. Yeah. Here's this strap. Like if you ever have like whatever, like you're used to like how, and there's dude, they're going to put a scuba tank on me and just like send me overboard.
Dude, they're good. Yeah. That's funny. All right. Well, I'm excited to hear how that goes.
It'll be fun, man. I'm super excited. Yeah.
I was coming home from Hawaii, and I know that with you had mentioned a few times where like people might see you like in an airport or something and say something in front of the kids about the podcast or about whatever. So I'm, my children at this point, it's evolved, right? They've evolved with kind of like, I guess, me being in the public eye in some way. My kids have kind of always known that in a way, but now that they're older, they kind of get it. We're at a pretty good point with it. And so we're getting on the plane. And on the plane, there's two guys, and they both walk up to me and they both shake my hand like, "Hey man, I'm a big fan. Listen to the podcast. Been following you on social media for about 10 years. I fell off the path. I'm off the path. I'm being honest with you. I fell off the path, but your content recently has inspired me. And now seeing you is a good reminder that like, I got to get back on the path." And so sure enough, one of them is doing the TH45 challenge, and the other one is coming to our men's club. He might be doing the challenge too. I don't know. But he gave me his email because he used to be an old member actually of a gym of ours a long time ago. And so he's coming to the men's club. But it's just one of those really weird examples where I feel like God and the universe put things in your life and you got to listen and be open-minded to it. But the fact that us can impart a little bit of inspiration to get guys up and moving, and that's like awesome. I cannot tell you the amount of messages, because what happened is on social media, we've been using this thing where if someone comments challenge, they'll get a link to our challenge. And we had hundreds and hundreds of people request this link. Each one of them I followed up with a voice memo saying, "Hey, if you have any questions, just let me know." Dude, the amount of people that reached back out to me and said that like, they needed this, they get inspiration. It just fills my cup. And so I got to tell everybody listening to this podcast right now, dude, if there's anything that Gabe and I can do to support you along your fitness journey, jump on the Train Hard app, go to the community section, email us back to our newsletter, hit us up, and we want to respond. We're not doing this, like we're not joking around. Like we really want to be there as a anchor for your training. And so if you're down, if you're like beat up right now, if you're listening to this, you're like, bro, I just don't feel like I don't feel like training. Message us, because maybe that little inspiration kicks you to that next point, and boom, it could be life-changing for you. So I guess that's a long-winded way of saying like, dude, especially after the call this morning, what's really clear to me is like, dude, we are who we are and we're on a mission. And if we could help you, let us know.
100%, man. I mean, this is what I said when we were having the whole push-pull discussion. Like, I'm happy being the one that's like, hey, if you're not fucking happy where you are, like, get your shit together. Like, you are a man, a husband, a father. You decided to make those decisions. And with that comes a responsibility to take care of your health, to provide, to protect, and to be capable, period. Like, and if you're not there, that's a problem. Having said that, I will do everything in my power to help you if you reach out. Like, you ask me a nutrition question, and people that have emailed me nutrition questions, they know this. Like, I'm going to take the time to send you a good, hopefully helpful response. And if you need some more follow-up or like, hey, what should my macros be? Like, whatever, like, let me know. And I'm happy to help, because to me, what isn't helpful is like standing over here being like, hey, get your shit together, blah, 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 blah. But not living it myself, which I do all the time. And it's a large part because I am putting this messaging out and I am on this podcast. And, you know, it's happened to me at like a High Rocks race because there's a lot of fitness people there. But like, I want that if someone that listens to the podcast sees me out in the real world, I'd love for you to come up, like say what's up, handshake, all that stuff. Like, that stuff is something I haven't gotten anywhere near as much as Jason, obviously. And it's super cool, and like be really cool for it to happen like in front of my family, my wife, my kids, because I feel like they feel like, hey, you know, whenever I'm here in the office, like recording these podcasts, like we're doing something meaningful. But B, I also think about like, I would never want to get caught not, you know, walking the walk while I'm out there, like how I treat my kids, how I walk around with my wife, like how I treat other people. There's now people out there that might potentially run into me who have this like level to which they expect me to act and behave because of the stuff that I put out there. And I'm constantly thinking about that. And that's something that I'm super grateful about this podcast. And I've said this in the past, like, because it holds me accountable. There are times where I definitely fall short. And for me, the reminder of I have to be better than that is because I can't be out here writing the content that we're putting out and saying the things that I say and not myself trying to be better every single day. And that obviously makes me better. And I'm super grateful for that. But yeah, I hope if people see me out in the world that I'm, you know, it's not a don't meet your heroes kind of situation, and people are like really pumped at what they actually see and who they meet. So dude, that's my goal.
That's my goal too.
Not that I'm calling myself anyone's hero, but you know what I mean? You know, they say don't meet your heroes because you're like, man, I thought that guy was like the guy. And then you meet him and he's like rude, shitty or whatever, like worst fear. And I'm never going to let it happen. So
dude, and you never forget that. Like Ashley was like a huge Ellen fan, like loved the show. This is like years ago.
Yeah. And I've heard Ellen is like the worst.
And dude, years ago, right? And one of our mutual friends like got us connected with her and whatever. This is years ago. And you know, we show up there, we're all fired up, we're front row, we're ready to rock. And like, dude, we're thinking Ellen show, like, let's go. She always comes out dancing, like it's gonna be all positive vibes. Bro, it was so not like that. It was all show, no go, so fake. And I never forget the emotion I left in me. And I wasn't even a fan. I could care less, right? Like I was just like, all right, well, obviously.
Can't imagine what it did for Ashley too.
Dude, I was just like, okay, she's a poser, whatever. Like, you know, like she says one thing and does another. And then Liz is laughing. And so then, but then for Ashley, like, dude, so Ellen, I'll just finish this story real quick. Ellen comes out, you know, they have all the dance and then she comes and then the crowd managers like, everybody, you know, clap. And of course we're in the front. We're like, yeah. And then as soon as she comes on, she like interviews someone, whatever. And then during the break, no discussion. And then it's like, everybody start clapping again. And then during the break, no discussion. She just like doesn't talk to anybody, nothing. Then after the show's over, I'm expecting something magical, right? Like, dude, I'm sitting there front row with Ashley. I'm like, dude, this is going to be incredible, right? And she goes and she's like, be good to the world. And then she walks off. That was it. It was like one of those moments where you're expecting like this grandiose like speech about like, you know, like, and dude, there's people there who waited in line for like, you know, forever. This is like their hero. And I just remember I looked at Ashley and I was like, ooh, it was just a bad look. Like it, and then sure enough, all this stuff came out about Ellen thereafter. But that's the example that comes to my mind.
Oh, man, that's brutal. That's brutal, man.
Dude, I mean, we've met a lot of like, I guess, famous, popular people. I'd say in general, like it's always been a pleasant experience. I always get what I think it's going to be, always. But that was an exception in general. But dude, I wanted to talk about this idea of Well, I wrote down Caden saying Ashley kissed a guy and power of coaches. Where should we go? I think I'll talk about power of coaches.
No, what did Caden say?
So I don't want to butcher this story. I should have asked Ashley to refresh it, but we're sitting in the pool and I'm playing baseball with Caden. And so we're like throwing around like this or whatever ball. And I don't know, relationships started to come up for some reason, and how Ash and I, we got together really young, and how we've just dated each other, and how like we're committed, we're in a relationship, and that's what it is. And like, you know, we met at 15 and we're married and that's it, done. And Caden just had nowhere, he's like, yeah, but mom, like you've definitely kissed like while like being married, like you've definitely like kissed like some guys, like whatever. And then just nonchalantly like play baseball. And I'm like, I look at him, I'm like, uh-oh. I was like, you're in trouble. And Ashley looks at him, he's like, what? And she's like, yeah. He's like, yeah. Like, I mean, you've kissed some guys, like whatever. And she's like, no, I haven't. And so we keep playing baseball. And then him and Ava like go like swim. And Ashley's like, dude, that's a problem. Like, why does he think that it's okay for a guy, for a girl to like kiss a guy? Like, why does he think it's okay? And maybe he thought the other way around. Like, why does he think it's okay to like kiss somebody? Like, that's nonchalant, like low key. Oh, this is why I brought it up. And because Ash and I started having a conversation, like, it was the fact he was just so nonchalant about it. Like, oh yeah, like whatever, you know? Is that a YouTube thing? Is it because he likes like YouTube shorts, he'll watch like all the baseball stuff. Is it like maybe that common culture where like maybe that's brought up? Is it in class? What made him think that it's okay for a married person to nonchalantly kiss another person? And so sure enough, like an hour later, like when we kind of like had time to like kind of digest it, we both sat him down. We're like, hey, we're just letting you know that like what you said, like we get that's your perspective, but that's not appropriate. Like it is not appropriate to be married or to have a girlfriend and be kissing other people. That's not appropriate. That is not okay. And your mom should never, ever do it. And neither should your dad. And like, it was a moment where he's like, oh, but like, why did he think that? Made me like wonder, you know?
Did you
like,
ask him?
I mean, at that point he got a little bit uncomfortable, right? Because he realized like what he was saying was like, very wrong, right? Anyways, that stuck with me as a parent.
Well, man, there's a lot.
There was a teaching moment there. Yeah, I know, but there was a teaching moment there, right? Like,
sure. But, yeah. I mean, that's not what I thought the story was at all. But I mean, there is a lot to unpack there. You know, one of the things that we talk a lot about is, you know, who are the influences on your kids? And the crazy thing is like, I mean, I don't know off the top of my head, like more intentional parents than you and Ashley. Like you guys are always having conversations. There's a lot of honesty. Like I've been around your family a bunch. Like I look up to you in many ways as a dad. Like it goes to speak, I think, and you know, you correct me if I'm wrong, just how difficult it is now, given like access to the digital world, given to like, I mean, do you know what's talked about at school and you know, with friends who have other parents who might have other values? Like you could be super involved, super intentional, and something that you would absolutely assume, like if I asked you before this happened, like, you know, does Caden think that, you know, it's like not a big deal for you and Ashley to be like kissing other people even though you're married? You would have been like, no, of course he doesn't think that, you know, like, but I think that's the interesting part to me is because that is a big value that, I mean, I know you, like that's like a big value for the family, and it's a big deal, as it should be, you know, like you take your marriage super seriously. And if anything, maybe you can expect something like this from someone who, like, you know, their parents got married super late and they know that they had like all these other boyfriend and girlfriends like before they even met, like then maybe you can kind of see that, right? But for that to be like a nonchalant thing, knowing that, I mean, you and Ashley have been forever, right? That to me is just a really interesting reminder of just the influences on our kids, how much of it is in our control, how much of it isn't. And this actually brings up one of the things that I had written down to talk about. But yeah, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's pretty eye-opening.
It was an eye-opening experience for us. And honestly, Ashley, you know, you know, not going extreme, but she was like almost, you know, she was offended, right? Like,
sure.
and offended because it was just like the nonchalantness of it.
Right.
But I think it does bring up a really good point to your point, which is, there's a lot of outside exposure.
He didn't get that out of the blue.
No, he didn't. And where did society become okay to just like nonchalant? And where is he seeing this? And maybe it's in movies, but not really. I don't know. And so what it did was it allowed us to have a moment where we could say, okay, hang on, this was not okay, right? Like, and of course, like we're on vacation, we're having good vibes. We're not trying to like ruin this trip, right? Like, or whatever. But we needed to address it, and it bothered Ashley for sure. And I think the way we addressed it was really appropriate, right? Like we gave it time, we gave it like 30 minutes, an hour to like let us kind of like, okay, where did this come from, right? Because we're not like screaming at him, like we're not mad at him. Obviously, he felt the way he felt.
I mean, it's not his fault. Like he's learning that from somewhere, you know?
For sure. And but I think that whatever happens with their kids, I think there's a good learning lesson for me, which is kids say crazy stuff. Number one, and they get that from all over these different places. I would say that your immediate reaction should be like something like level keeled, and then take time to digest it and then have an appropriate conversation about it. Because I don't think in that moment, us like getting mad or us like whatever, I don't think it would have captivated as much as us taking time and be like, hey, I just want to go back to something you had said like an hour ago. Like, because it kind of brings the energy back. Like, hey, that wasn't cool, and we're still thinking about it, and we need to address it. So I think overall we did a good job with it. But I think what it was a reminder of is maybe we could have reoccurring things like every now and then speaking more clearly. I could do a better job as a dad of like, I show, but I don't necessarily tell as much as maybe I should. Be like, hey, in relation, I try to. But maybe I could do better. Like, hey, in relationships, like it's a commitment that I've made to your mom. And what that means is this. I've never really maybe shared that as well as I could with him. I just try and show it to him. But maybe that's something I could take away as something I could do better in the future. Or people listening to this, who have kids, maybe they could share, hey, when you're in a committed relationship, this is what it looks like. I've never said that because I didn't think I had to.
Do you think that that's a play? And we've both been on this journey and sharing a bunch. Actually, we got a lot of really cool comments to the last time we talked about faith. But do you think that that's where like something like leaning on the Bible like is incredibly useful, because it leaves no room for ambiguity for like the big values and morals, right? Like, I'll actually share this with you. Me and Ariel went to church for the first time this past Sunday.
Did you go to a Christian church?
Yeah, we went to like a non-denominational Christian church here.
Dude, did they play all the music and they bring the energy?
Yeah, for sure. It was an experience for many reasons. It's been an interesting journey for us because Ariel's Jewish and her family like upholds the traditions of Judaism. Like we sit down for Passover Seder, and like all these things are very big deal. They're not, I wouldn't say they're like very religious, but like in the Jewish culture, it's the religion, but it's also like the culture and the tradition. And those things sometimes are one, but sometimes they're separate. There's so many families that I know wouldn't consider themselves like very religious, but for all the high holidays and stuff, it's more the tradition of it. Yeah. So for her, it's kind of been this thing where like, she and I both feel, this calling to be like a lot more involved in our faith. And we've been talking a lot about more, and she's like fully on board with me praying with Shay every night. And like, it's all been very positive, but there is this part that just feels like kind of like, I wouldn't say betraying that culture or anything, but almost like stepping away from it. If we go in this direction, if that makes sense. So that's kind of been just like something that we've been navigating towards. But anyway, went to church, wanted to try it out, see how the experience was. But they mentioned that, and I was surprised by this because obviously in Texas, these churches are huge, but they have like middle school ministry, and they have like the youth and all this stuff. And they're going over what are some of these like very black and white, like this is what you do and this is what you don't do. And it's actually being like taught in a meaningful way. And I'm just curious, your thought, like, is that potentially somewhere where that serves that purpose? Because if they're not getting it from church, then where are they getting it? And then what is that? What door does that leave open for then other influences to be like, no, this is what's okay, not this?
I mean, well, because my son and daughter, they go to private Catholic school also. So like they're I mean, so that's why the reason why this took me aback so much is just how nonchalant it was. Like it was like so low key And I don't know if that's because of where relationships have evolved to. Like, do you think that, I don't know, maybe I'm like looking at this too deeply. Maybe this is just like a stupid
I think
thing.
it's a really good conversation because like you said, it's the fact that it was so like, yeah, I mean, obviously, Dad, just makes it like pretty obvious that it's been something that's been positioned as that, right? Like not a big deal, which is interesting.
Yeah, I think maybe if I could go back, I mean, I think my learning lesson is I will be more intentional with sitting Kaden down every so often and having more focused conversations about what it means to be a committed man in a relationship. I don't think I've done, I mean, he's still young, right? But I think as he gets older, that's something that's really important to me. And this was an example of maybe how I could have nipped it in the butt had I had this conversation a month ago with him. But nonetheless, I think that's another reason for this podcast, right? Is that we're sharing stuff that's coming up in our life, trying to be real about it. I mean, like you going to church with Ariel is awesome because, Ashley, I've been trying to, I've learned this the hard way. Like I try not to push. I with the family, I just try and pull, and they've seen me every morning. I'm reading the Bible every single morning. It's been really, really powerful for me. It's been just really great. And they know it, right? I have a Bible out on the table. They see it. They know that I was just reading that book, the one I was telling you about. I don't have enough whatever to be an atheist. They see it and they haven't necessarily been super drawn to it yet. And so I'm just kind of like, just low key about it. And I think over time, hopefully it'll create some curiosity. But the fact that you and Ariel could do that together, dude, I think that's a huge win. Sal DiStefano told a story for Easter, actually. Him and his wife were telling a story about how they were going through some relationship stuff, and then they both found the church, and it really has helped their relationship. And I believe that there's a lot you could do from a relationship perspective with faith, but that's not somewhere that we're at right now. But I think it'll maybe one day get there,
For sure, man. And it's a different journey for everyone. And we want to go back this weekend. It was definitely a challenge with the kids. But I recently saw a post on Instagram that actually gave me kind of like the, hey, we should do the confidence to do it, because it was cool. It was essentially saying that like, when the kids are crying in church and there's like a fussy kid, like, just know that no one is annoyed by that. Mm-mm. Because that signifies that there's families there and that they want to be involved. And like a church without kids isn't like what any church really wants. And so I remember reading that and being like, all right, because let me tell you, the kids were definitely fussing. Yeah, they have an area. They have an area for the kids, but Shay has never spent a second of his life without us or grandparents. Like never, because he hasn't had to, right? Like he hasn't had to have daycare. He hasn't had to have a nanny. We've been very blessed in that respect. So this was actually the first time where they have, like the children's area. And it's crazy how they systemize everything. It's actually really impressive. But yeah, so he was going to stay there, and obviously he didn't do well. It was his first time. So we went to go grab him halfway through the service. And then, you have a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old trying to sit through a service is an interesting experience. But yeah, man, I mean,
I think you hit the nail on the head, by the way. Like, I do think in church it's different. And even for me, by the way, as a parent on the airplane, I'm like, as long as I feel like a parent, honestly, is like making like a moderate effort to try and soothe the kid. Sure. Especially at like dude, you're right. Like at a church, it's like, bro, people get it, man. Like you're just trying to be there. You're trying to have, and even on an airplane, man, like honestly, it's like, dude, as long as someone's trying, like I get it, man. I've had kids too. You can't always control it. Like that's what you know what I mean? Like these people who give like super snarky looks to people with kids who are trying to like get them to stop crying. It's the worst. Like, what are you doing? Like
it's the worst. Or honestly, it's people without kids. Because if you don't have kids, you don't get it. Right. Like it's kind of one of, and that's not to blame anyone, but it's just like you can't
relate, right? Yeah, I mean, I've seen situations where random strangers will pick up babies and help someone walk down the aisle because the dude's been doing it for an hour straight,
Dude, I'm never gonna forget. Ariel was the person that did that one time before we had kids, and this is when we were like getting like pretty close to like, all right, I think it's time for us. And I remember sitting on that flight, and she was just like, I'm just gonna help, and she went and like literally just like picked up the baby and like started, and I was like, all right, we're going to do this.
We got a good one here.
We're ready.
We're ready. I was on the flight back from Hawaii. And so I always sit bulkhead aisle. We've talked about this, but
yes,
I always,
bulkhead ready.
So It's in this particular case, Ash and the kids were actually like 2 or 3 rows back. And because my kids are old enough now where they're just doing their own thing. Like, it's not like I have to take
They don't
care
need
of
to sit next to you.
Right. And so I'm bulkhead aisle, and this girl who was on her way to Japan, so a Japanese girl, sat next to me in the middle. And then there was another woman on the right, very like older woman, very sweet, very, very sweet. Dude, as the flight goes on, this girl in the middle seat, she must have taken like a sleeping pill or something. I mean, dude, this chick, she was out, bro. So she had one of those neck pillows. And so she started off like kind of gearing towards me. I'm like, no, dude, I'm not having some random, like, no. And so I kind of like gave her like a little like,
yeah, a little nudge,
like
little
for lack
push.
of a term, like a little love tap, right? Like,
Yeah.
And so she shifted her energy towards the right. And so as the flight goes on, keep in mind it's a 5-hour flight. By the time she goes on, she gets really, really close to this woman. Well, it turns out, dude, when we land, the jet bridge gets stuck. And so our plane was stuck on the tarmac.
I remember you told me that.
It was about a foot away from like the thing that comes out. And so they wouldn't let us off.
Is she still knocked out?
Dude, she's still knocked out. So we sit there for 2 hours, bro. And by the time this lady, dude, at one point, she's fully on top of this woman's, like almost like on her lap. And you see this like little petite woman. I felt so bad for her, dude. And so anyways, after we got out of the plane, I just looked at the woman in the middle, and she didn't speak great English, but I was trying to let her know like, hey, that woman next to you, like she took one for the team. Like, anyways, it was just like, it got me a good laugh because I just was so grateful that wasn't me, but I felt so bad for that woman. Just stuck in the corner for 2 hours on the tarmac, dude. And dude, she was too sweet to say anything.
Nothing as bad as we got stuck. I think I told you this, an hour on the tarmac in Austin, and they unhooked the AC.
Dude.
And dude, it was not good, man. It was not good. Anyway, I want to get to the Q&A for this episode.
Yeah.
So to be a hard worker and a good provider, do you have to like the work or the job that you have? Or love the job that you have? I struggle not to complain about work all the time. To what extent do you not talk about work at home? It's a good one.
I think it's a really good question. I'll start off by caveating what I'm about to say by something I think about on a regular basis is that this is the life that I chose. I chose the job that I have, and I think that's important to know. I think that if you come to terms and you take ownership of the fact that you chose the journey you're on, that's a good way to kind of like get settled in the discussion, right? Like no one forced you into this, you chose it. And the reason why I bring that up for myself is that owning businesses for 20 years, it's came with a lot of beautiful benefits, amazing. And it's just been, I get to do what I love for a living. It's been incredible, but it also comes with some challenges, especially during COVID and other times. And I've had to come to terms with that, like, let me put it this way. I love what I do. And so it's hard for me to complain because I've recognized that I'm grateful to be able to do what I do. It doesn't mean that I don't have tough days. It doesn't mean that I don't have tough conversations. It doesn't mean that financially I get stressed out. But I think I've had to compartmentalize that and communicate it in a more effective way with my family, especially my wife, than I used to in the past. So during COVID, maybe I'd be really reactive, and it was just terrible. And that energy wasn't beneficial to mine and my wife's relationship. It wasn't constructive. So what I had to do is learn, okay, I'm stressed out at work. Maybe I don't like something about it. How do I have a discussion with my wife instead of just like venting all the time? And that became very constructive, where we felt like we were on a team together to solve problems instead of just me being negative or venting. That's the initial way I'll say that. The thing is, not everybody's going to love their job. No, it's just the way it is. Not everybody's going to be I'm very blessed to love what I do for work, but you could love the byproduct of that work. So like, let's just say you're an electrician. You might not have passion for being an electrician, but if that's providing for your family, I think compartmentalizing that, I think, is the first step. Like looking at what it provides you versus looking at the actual job itself is something I'd recommend.
One thing that this question kind of makes me think about is I'm not saying specific to the person that asked this question, because I'm not sure who that is, but I do think that a lot of people out there complain about their current positions because they're comparing it to other jobs out there and what they think those other jobs are. And the reason that I started thinking about that while you were talking is I know that there's this, for entrepreneurship, for example, so is a great example. There's this like romantic vision of what it's like to own a business where everyone sees I'll use you as an example. Jason Khalipa is on podcasts. He gets to travel. He's doing cool content. He works out for a living. He does all this. The stuff that people don't see is the ebbs and flows of things completely outside of your control, like COVID being the perfect example, right? And I know that impacted people that weren't business owners as well, but not to the extent of like, you own gyms and you literally can't open them. I know that there's been cases with lawsuits and liability and all this kind of stuff that like when you choose to own a business and you're responsible for other people's livelihoods, like that's the side that I think people don't see. And I think that sometimes people, and this applies for anything, like how you look, your physique, how much money you have, like the comparison that we can do now because we have so much access to other people's lives and honestly access to other people's highlight reel, right? Because this parenting, really everything, like you're just seeing the highlights. You're seeing all the happy moments. You're seeing the cute babies, like, and everyone's guilty of this. I'm guilty of this. I post a lot of stuff with my kids now, and all I post is like the cute stuff, like me doing my daughter's hair, like us doing burpees together. Obviously, I'm not sharing videos of like the tantrums, Shay now always trying to hit Charlie and like, when they're not sleeping and all that stuff. That stuff is not stuff you share, but it's a side that people don't see. And I think that that's kind of where this question goes for me is like, is it complaining because where you're at is actually something that's like really tough and you don't love? Or is that maybe fueled a little bit or a lot just because you think that there are these other things out there that would be so much better and so much more enjoyable? I think that's a really good kind of level set that we can all do because man, it's tough not to compare yourself, obviously. And it's tough not to have access to everyone's highlight reel and think that, man, they must have it so well because they do this or they do that, or they don't have to do that. And the truth of the matter is no matter how blessed we're both very blessed. I know I'm very grateful that I get to do what I do for work. Doesn't mean that it's all sunshine and rainbows either. We're all dealing with something. And I think that that's important to keep in mind when you're thinking about like, hey, how bad is this job really? Or how much do I complain about it? So that's kind of the one side I think about it. And then the last thing I'll add is, to what extent, do you talk about work from home? This is one thing that me and Ariel have actually had to really work on because I work at home. So sometimes it's difficult to disconnect because, I'll just go in for lunch and I'll be at the house and I'm kind of like still in work mode. We've set boundaries on like, when I will talk or like vent a little bit about stuff and when it's like completely hands off. And I'm not saying that works for everyone about having very strict, like, hey, we do it here, we don't do it here. But it's worked for us. And it's kind of one of those things where like, for example, the dinner table is sacred. Like it doesn't get brought up there, right? Like we just don't talk about it there. I can talk about it with her when we're like out for a walk or stuff like that, but we just have kind of like identified times and places where that is a conversation that's okay to have and when it isn't. And that's helped. So maybe that helps some people out there.
Yeah, I think what it all comes down to is perspective. I think if you're really unhappy at work, recognizing what it provides for your family is a great step. If that still doesn't make you happy, right? Then maybe it's time for a change. But I think perspective is so, so important here because you're right. You are seeing highlight reels across the board from everybody. And, regardless of the trade, it doesn't matter the trade. Name the job. No one's ever going to talk to you about all the crap like they have to deal with. I mean, maybe they will, right? But every job comes with kind of pros and cons, every job. And I think that recognizing that is a great way to walk into your work and have grace, have gratitude. That's something I've been working on a regular basis is like focusing more on what am I grateful for versus what challenges am I having? And that's been really, really great. Because just like, for example, getting ready for a competition and focusing on what's in your control, there's a lot of stuff in your control. There's a lot of stuff out of your control. But if you focus on what's in your control, it gives you a sense of like peace. There's a lot of things that you are probably grateful for. But in general, we'll have a tendency to focus on things that we're not grateful for, that the hard stuff. But if you choose to focus on, dude, I'm so grateful that I have this, I'm telling you, it just centers you for the rest of the day. It's been really helpful for me. And a lot of this came down to the Bible and prayer. So kind of going full circle in that has been really, really helpful. Yeah, I mean, look, we share it here. That's it.
Super helpful, man. I mean, I can speak to that too, because for me and Shay at night, part of our bedtime routine when it's all gratitude. Like that's basically all it is. Like it's never, and maybe this will change. And I know that a lot of this is that I am very blessed and have honestly a lot of things to be grateful for, but it's not so much like, man, this was really tough today, or like, I'd love to change this, or I'd love to change that. Like, it's just ending the day with like, hey, what were the things that I'm incredibly, incredibly grateful for? And I think that having that bookend does change just how you go to bed, the energy you take to bed, how you wake up, like whether you are someone that, believes in God, is very faith driven or not. Like there's very much like, physiological benefits to like the type of energy that you're bringing into your sleep, the quality of rest you're going to get because of it. So it goes kind of hand in hand. But yeah, man, dude, gratitude is huge. And again, it's super interesting because I've tried every gratitude practice in the book. I've had a gratitude journal. I've done like mindfulness, meditation apps. Dude, prayers has worked, man. I haven't missed a day. And I would be remiss to say that it hasn't had like an incredibly positive impact on me and on Shay, I would hope. He's old enough now that he's talking a little bit. Every night we end with like, hey man, what's one thing you're grateful for? And he'll say like his book or like his animal or his stuffy, but he says it and then we say amen. And it's just a thing.
Dude, I love it. Well, hey, we are pursuing the TH45 challenge, waking up early, training hard, no alcohol. We're fired up to have you guys with us. We're fired up to have you along this journey. The journey is very, very simple for me. It is to impact as many lives as possible, to help many men train, protect, provide. And along that journey, I think we're going to have generational changes. That's what I believe. And if you believe that too, share this podcast with 2 more friends, right? Get them on this same journey with us. Have them join our community on the Train Hard app. But at a very minimum, send this podcast to them. Let this podcast continue to grow and marinate with more and more people so that we could bring more people to the fold and level us all up in the process. I appreciate you guys. I hope you and your family are doing great and keep training hard.